All right, welcome to another session in day two of the 18th edition of Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Bales. I'm your moderator. We are fortunate to have, oh, before I forget, we are sponsored by the Journal of Educators Online. They have some really useful referee articles, and it'd be worth your time to check it out at thejeo.com. We have with us today Steve Curta and John Oakey, something like that. Forgive
Nailed
me.
it. Nailed it. Okay. Yep.
They're both from National Louis University, and they're going to talk about, as it shows on the screen, Beyond Artificial Intelligence Revolution. Transforming higher education through faculty-driven AI integration. And first comment I have is, if you want to be successful with anything, you better have faculty driving it, or you're going to get a lot of resistance to it. Anyway, I'll let Stephen and John take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Bob. As Bob mentioned, my name is Steve Curta. John, I'm not sure what we're going to do as far as introduction, other than that I'm a faculty member at National Louis University, and John works at Center for Teaching and Learning for the university. So
Perfect.
with that quick intro, let me just give you a quick overview as well. I'll spend maybe 15 minutes or so, go through some of the study synopsis, and John will lead some of the activities that tie the theories that we will discuss to some of the practices. And we'll also want to leave maybe 10 minutes or so for Q&A. So let's jump right in. So first slide. Unless you're under the rock for past 3 years, the artificial intelligence is really rapidly expanded across all aspects of society, and higher education is no exception. So we're also experiencing that significant growth or impact within our higher education. And with any major technological shift, this expansion really has both opportunities and challenges. So in response to that, we conducted this study, examining some of the faculty's perspective on AI, including how faculty use AI, and some of their concerns and support they think that they need. Uh, at least in my course, students use AI tools for tasks ranging from grammatical corrections to writing support to information summarization, and even in some cases, full assignment completion. And as AI continued to evolve and permeate higher education, it really is essential to understand its effect on teaching, learning, assessment, and even institutional practices. So one goal of our study was to bridge that gap between theoretical discussion of AI education and the practical experiences of faculty who are actively navigating these challenges. So as I've said, at the conclusion of at least my discussion, John will highlight some of those practices. So next, please. We wanted to look at how faculty perceive their students are using AI in their courses. The second thing we wanted to know is how do faculty integrate AI in their courses, and what concerns and support that faculty say that they need. Yeah. Next. Uh, we developed this survey specifically for this particular study, and survey consisted of both quantitative and qualitative questions. Survey was distributed through two channels. As I've said, Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence, where John is a faculty member there, their newsletter, as well as the direct email to our faculty. And we sent a reminder email 1 week after the initial distribution. Okay, next, please. So here are our actual questions, both quantitative and qualitative. Really, the survey was designed to address the 6 areas: the perceived extent of AI use by students, faculty integration of AI in courses, method of detecting AI use in student work, requirements for students using AI, desired training and support regarding AI, and the questions and concerns about AI use in education. Okay? Next, please. So for the qualitative analysis, the initial phase involved using AI to conduct the initial preliminary coding, identifying some of the emerging themes and patterns within the data. Following this step, research team consists of John and I. We reviewed and refined the preliminary themes to ensure that some of the nuances and contextual elements in the responses were accurately captured, and also was in line with our research question. We then worked to finalize that theme, engaging in detailed discussion to resolve discrepancies and reach consensus. We believe that this systematic approach, combining both efficiency of AI systems with depth of human interpretation, it really enabled a rigorous and comprehensive examination of our qualitative data. Next. So let's jump right into our data and our analysis. So quantitative analysis revealed that faculty perceived moderate use of AI tools by students, with slightly higher usage of writing revisions and editing compared to summarizing and simplifying information. And interestingly, faculty themselves report a similar level of AI integration in their courses, suggesting that educators are actively engaged in their new technology, albeit at considerable variation in some of the practices. So next, please. Let's dive into the qualitative data, which I think it's a little more informative. Here's the research question 2. And for research question 2, really the qualitative data revealed a 4 themes. And together, these themes illustrate that faculty are actively experimenting with AI rather than avoiding it, while still maintaining strong boundaries around academic integrity. So let's jump into these 4 areas. Next, please. So the first theme reflects how faculty establishes course level policies for AI use. Many framed AI as really more of a support tool, emphasizing that students remain responsible for the final product. And faculty frequently require some transparency statements disclosing AI use and citation explaining how AI was used. Second theme focused on instructional integration. Faculty described intentionally designing assignments that permitted or even required AI use for tasks such as brainstorming, outlining, lesson planning, or concept clarification. Importantly, the assignments emphasized really synthesis or requiring students to integrate AI output for their course readings, discussions, and original thinking. Next slide, please. For the third theme, a third theme highlighted how faculty manage and detect student AI use. So rather than relying on AI detectors, which many viewed as unreliable, faculty really emphasized transparency, personal reflection, writing voice, and changes in their tones and vocabularies and all those things as indicators of AI misuse. And some of the strategies include requiring reflections, personal anecdotes, writing samples, and follow-up conversation when concerns arose. And for the fourth theme, that reflect faculty's use of AI in their own professional practices. Faculty describe using AI to design assignments, develop rubrics, and create instructional materials to provide more details and timely feedback. Many faculty note that AI helped improve their efficiency and really allowed them to focus more intentionally on student engagements, learning, and academic development. Next, please. So with research question 3, okay, next. Research question 3, qualitative data revealed 5 themes, and those themes reflect concerns about AI detection reliability, access to AI tools, institutional guidance and policy clarity, professional development needs, and preferred format for some of the faculty learning. Next, please. Let's look at first theme. It really reflects a strong lack of trust in AI detection tool, as mentioned earlier. Faculty consistently describe AI detection as unreliable, citing false positives and inconsistent results. Several note that detection tool alone cannot be used confidently to address academic integrity and concerns. The second theme really centered around access. Faculty expressed really frustration with limited access to paid or institutionally supported AI tools. Many requested that the university provide licensed tools or clear recommendations and even centralized resources to faculty who are left navigating AI independently. And I think together these themes really highlight that both structural barriers and faculty that face AI use. So the third theme reflect really needed for strong institutional support. Faculty requested clearer guidance on acceptable AI use, transparent academic integrity process, and consistent policies across all programs and colleges. So many also really emphasize that redesigning the assignment to reduce AI misuse really required time and compensation as well. The fourth theme focused on professional development. The faculty wanted concrete, practical guidance on how to integrate AI ethically into their teaching, assessment, and course design, not just have that abstract discussion. And finally, the faculty described preferred format for development. And those include really the short, flexible training, hands-on workshops, self-paced options, and opportunities to learn from colleagues through shared experiences and collaborative discussions. So collectively, these themes suggest that faculty are not really resist the AI, but really they're seeking more clarity, resources, and support to engage with responsible and effective. So our finding really suggests that institutions should move beyond just simply policing AI use. Instead, focus on ethical, transparent integration. This includes expanding AI resources within the learning management system, to providing clear guidance on acceptable use and offering practical support, such as citation template and vetted AI tools. So in summary, that the faculty generally perceive that students are using AI primarily as a writing support tool. However, I think that how students are using AI, I think it remains an important area for some future research as well. faculty are, at least according to our study, actively experimenting with AI in their professional practices and really have expressed strong interest in additional professional development. They're also looking for institution for clear policy and improved access and more intentional integration of AI across teaching and learning. So I think taken together, these steps really positions AI as not really a threat to learning, but as a tool that, when used thoroughly or thoughtfully, it really can enhance teaching, learning, and academic integrity. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending at least this portion of it. I'll turn it over to John, who will share how he has been applying some of these findings, and he operationalized several of these findings that we discussed. So I'll turn it over to John. John?
Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Dr. Kurta. I hope everyone can hear me okay. If you can't, let me know and I'll try to adjust. But I'm going to open some breakout rooms because I'd like us to practice these activities. And maybe I don't have breakout room possibilities. That's okay. I can share the slides and you can just kind of choose what you want to work on. No big deal. But the three activities that we've listed here are just three different ways that we can think about AI use in our role. And so the first one being kind of AI assisted differentiation. This is, I think everyone would differentiate their assignments for different levels of learners if they had the time. We don't always have the time. And so being able to have someone help us with that or something help us with that is the point here. And chatbots are really good at doing this, or at least giving us a jumping off point for this. Another thing that I think we should be doing is helping students understand how to use these chatbots responsibly. And a big part of that is evaluating output. I think the 21st century skill for workers is going to be AI critical thinking. And so developing those critical thinking skills now with students before they enter the workplace is something that's going to only help make them more competitive when they get there. And so we've put together a rubric here of how you can evaluate an AI output. So there's a case study there where you can input the case study, give it one of the questions that's listed in the case study, get it to respond to that question, and then you can use the rubric there to evaluate the output. So that's what that activity is. The AI assisted differentiation, so going back to the first one, that activity is you give it a prompt for an assignment, there's a sample one there, and you ask it to differentiate for different levels of learners. And then the next one is the final one here is expectations. And this is more about our conversations with students. So how are we having conversations with students so that everyone's clear about what the expectations are for particular kinds of assignments in our class? In our experience, if you have that conversation early, whether if you're an on-ground or in-person session, have that conversation with students. If you're online only, do a discussion board or a survey with students, asking them how they want to use AI in their courses. When you do that, the conversation you have later will then be shifted because it'll be, I think it's easier to maintain rapport if you're having the conversation about, hey, remember those expectations that we discussed at the beginning? Let's talk about that. And how did you use AI on your assignment here? Versus if you haven't had that conversation, you say, hey, it looks like you used AI on this assignment. Tell me about that. They're like, well, you didn't say we couldn't. And they're right. It's kind of hard to go back at that point. So in this way, we'll have kind of the activity for that third activity is really about you setting like maybe a contract, like a social contract with students and how you can build that. So what I'm going to do is share the slides. And then I'll briefly go through them so you can kind of see the different activities. But just, I guess, like pick an activity and engage with that for about, about 15 minutes. We have time for about 15 minutes. And then we can come back and discuss it. But those are meant, there we go. Those are the slides, but you could see they're meant to give you some of these skills to take back to your courses as well. So for the differentiation, there's a little bit of an intro here. There's a link to the activity here. There's an example of an assignment, and then you can ask it to differentiate that assignment a little bit for different levels of learners. For each activity, I've included some resources, our own personal resources in NLU. You don't need to like log in or anything for those. Those are just yours that you can check out. Critically evaluating AI output. So again, you've got, a business ethics case study, and you've got this AI output evaluation and rubric. And you can see here there's a rubric for it. So just some considerations. Here's kind of what to be looking at. So when you're evaluating AI outputs or you're encouraging students to do so, here's a few buckets, and then I put that into a rubric as well that you can use. And then finally, the expectations, I talk a little bit about why those expectations are important. And then the activity is just developing that contract. And you can even put this into a chatbot and see what the chatbot comes up with a contract. So if you want to use ChatGPT or something like that, for those, that's perfectly acceptable. But I'm going to stop my screen share. Everyone should have the slides. And I'll be here for questions while you kind of like pick an activity and engage with that. Sorry, I was hoping to put us in breakout rooms, but I don't seem to have the option. But that's okay. We'll just pick one and do it, and we'll reach out if you have questions.
Folks, if it really helps, as you go through, maybe we can just go down sequentially. The first one, as you're working through this, the discussion really is encouraged because, again, where we planned it, this would have been at 3 breakout rooms where each of you, whatever the interest was, would go in there and have that dialogue. So feel free to discuss. And we can do it as a first one, and then 10 minutes later, second one, third one, etc.
Anyone taking a stab at the first activity yet? Asking it to, and the first one being the differentiation, asking it to differentiate an activity or an assignment. Okay, I did. So I can share mine if folks want to take a look and chat, and I can just kind of talk through why I think this is helpful. Maybe a good first step, but if anyone else has insights or did this activity on a different case study or a different assignment, feel free to share. So this one looked at the case here. The activity was to analyze a leadership. You could say I asked to analyze a leadership failure case, and so it's referencing the leadership of Boeing back in 2018, 2019. And kind of like why it qualifies as a case, and then multiple lenses. So the that I can only show you here. So three corrective actions they can take, references, and then here's the differentiated versions of the assignment. And so this is it creating the study and then giving you the versions. If you give it the assignment and just ask for three different versions, it'll just give you kind of this piece of ways that you can differentiate it. So it keeps the same learning target. So it's going to identify like the learning outcome, and then it's going to kind of offer those the differentiated versions for each one. So here's the learning target and the success criteria, and then there's version A, which is a kind of a more focus toward beginners, maybe folks who haven't quite mastered the concepts yet. And then version B, intermediate, meaning they have some proficiency, they're understanding it, they're probably like right on track in terms of where you'd want them to be. Here's a way for them to deepen their understanding. And then kind of taking it a step further, folks who are advanced and maybe ready to move forward, but not everyone's there yet. This option kind of helps them dig even deeper or use kind of like deeper critical thinking skills. So the idea here is that, by we may not have the time to do this with every single one of our assignments. AI can help. The reason I think this is pretty impactful is if you have students who aren't quite understanding the material yet, they're not going to be engaged because they're like, oh, they're still talking. I don't understand this. I'm never going to get it. They're moving past where I'm at. I'm never going to catch up, right? Or I'll do it on my own later. And will they? Who knows? But they're maybe falling behind, and they could disengage because of that. On the other side, you've got students who are like, I get this. We've talked about this already 4 times. I get that people don't get it, but I'm getting bored here. And so they may disengage. So by offering multiple opportunities for engagement that are at varying levels, we can try to keep everyone engaged and moving forward, regardless of where they're at, in terms of in terms of course progress. And I think or really concept understanding, like, do they understand the concept that we're trying to teach today? And that's why I wanted it to connect all to the same learning objective, right? The idea here is that that's the module level objective or this week's learning objective. And I want to keep hitting that, just in different ways. And AI can help me do that. So the whole point here again is that, this isn't just for students to use on assignments or to use in course redesign. We can use it as we're going through the course in response to where students are at in their learning process. I think that's something that we sometimes maybe don't take advantage of, and I wanted to give an example of how we can do that. Um, any questions, comments, concerns? Did anyone use a different activity, have different results? Love to hear from you.
Yeah, I guess I can jump in because I've revised 4 classes now to implement AI, and I think it's important. The last one is that I have incorporated assignments, some assignments where they're not supposed to be using AI, some where they do, but with every assignment, they do have to include an AI honesty note. And I did, like, for every course, establish expectations and specific criteria of what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, et cetera, because these courses some have just started to run this week. It's going to be really interesting to see how this evolves on my end, and I guess seeing what is successful and what is not successful. I am seeing some students still a little unsure about admitting the use of AI and just not wanting to include the AI disclosure. But yeah, but I have been very much been doing that.
Great. Yeah, on that last activity of the one that I had recommended was kind of like almost like a social contract, right? So how do we an AI usage contract that you can say, hey, here's how we're going to use this. We're all in agreement. That being said, like the way that you kind of had a disclosure for every assignment is great, right? I think when I talk about expectations up here is kind of, make it collaborative, connect to learning objectives, but make sure that we're also talking about how we're using AI for different activities. Because students may say, like, I love it for brainstorming. I really want to create an outline using AI, and I think it's really helpful. And you might be okay with that, but you might not want them to use that on a discussion board if you're an online course, right? Like, inevitably, we'll end up just having a discussion board post that then someone puts into AI and then replies with their AI output, and then they put that into AI, and really it's just AI having a conversation with itself. That's not helpful. So, um, it's totally fine if you have lines in the sand that you want to draw based on learning objectives. And the argument here is like connect those to learning objectives and then connect it to the workplace, right? Like you may be giving a presentation, you may be having a conversation, you may be doing a product pitch. You can't stop in the middle of that and check ChatGPT or ask ChatGPT for a response, right? So helping them understand that, like we need to make sure that we understand this content. This activity is not meant to just help you submit a paper. It's not just busy work. It's demonstrating understanding of these concepts. Here's why. And I think that helps students connect. And during that expectations conversation, then they know that your AI guidelines are not arbitrary. They're for a reason, with their best interests in mind. But that being said, we want to connect to their expectations too. How do they want to use AI? And I really like your disclosure. I think revisiting the AI expectations before each new kind of assignment. So, hey, we're going to be writing a paper this week. Remember, here's how we talked about using AI. Or we're going to be submitting a presentation. Here's how we talked about using AI with presentations. That can be helpful. Another thing I've seen folks do is do an annotated bibliography that includes the AI tool. So here's the AI tool. Here's how I used it. Not that I didn't use it, but here's how I used it. I've also seen faculty asking students to submit not only their first draft of the paper, submit their prompt and the response from AI, and then submit the second draft of the paper so they can kind of see the through line of their process of writing the paper. So these are all just ideas, but they all stem from this conversation that you have with AI expectations.
Yeah,
Thanks, Deb.
and also, if I can add to that as well, we really want to encourage AI use as a initial onset, but it's the students thinking, students intellectual property, I guess is the best way to put it. And let's take ChatGPT, for example, it's gotten better, but there's a lot of errors that's embedded with that if you don't double check, triple check, it's just going to come through and you're either going to fail or embarrass yourself if you publish it as a fact and it turns out it's not. So it really is how you use it and encouraging students double, triple check and don't take that as a gospel. I think that's really another important element to that.
Yeah, I agree. They have to learn how to use it and knowing that, the hallucinations and the errors. And the one thing I had incorporated too is again, I had to revise every single assignment, I've revised every single grading rubric. And I've also started to incorporate, well, I did through the revisions, like templates, like reflection templates where I want to see them directly using my template, but sometimes you see them putting that through AI. And yeah, so we're just all in that process of we're learning and trying to teach them, but they have to learn and be ethical and responsible.
That's right. And I reference here in the expectations conversation that LinkedIn and Microsoft did a study, and it was overwhelming the number of current professionals who are also students who said that AI will help them be more competitive in their work, and help them qualify them for more opportunities, for advancement or for new jobs. And so and that was like 2 summers ago. So the fact, I mean, it's probably even higher now as folks are starting to, by folks, I mean, as employers are starting to favor AI integration and use cases, the more that students are going to need it. And you're right, like the idea of being prepared for that is understanding how to critically think about it, how to look at that output, make the most of it. And to Steve's point, like it's, the phrase that I've been using is process over product. So thinking about an AI tool as helping you with your process, not helping you create a product. And I think that's a key differentiator, and it helps them understand like when maybe they're crossing a line of like, oh, this is something that needs to be my thoughts or my intellectual property as opposed to something that AI is generating for me. So I think that can be a useful thought process to keep in mind. Um, I just wanted to go back. So we did talk a little bit about this. Is this what is coming out of a chatbot and evaluating those responses. Um, I just want to go over this a little bit. I don't, and then if you have, I know I didn't tell people to bring an activity. I think that was part of our issue is people may not have an activity they can track down. But I've got a case study here. You can try this at some point. Maybe in the next few minutes here we can try it. But taking the case study, which is there's a pretty decent sized case study here, and here's the key players for the case study. And at the bottom, there are questions. So to kind of like plugging one of these questions in conjunction with the case study and asking the chatbot to respond to it, and then going through. And I think, this emphasizes what we're looking for, when we're evaluating the output. And if students can kind of get these 4 things down, I think this is a good start, right? That fact checking, understanding that chatbots can make a mistake. How do we go find, how do we go find, references or support for the claims made by a chatbot? And then kind of, going through that, taking what it's given you and rewriting it, adding citation, clarifying, adding personal examples or vignettes to bring it to life, right? So those are a couple of first steps we can do. And then looking for bias, what perspective isn't presented by that chatbot? Is it missing something? As often it will. And then if we scroll down, we can see that there's kind of breaking that down a little bit. Some questions that you can ask yourself relative to those to analyze the output. And this is a good activity that you can do with students in your course too. Give them an output and have them use this and the rubric, one or the other, to begin to evaluate these outputs from chatbots. And see, this goes a little deeper. It goes into tone of voice, appropriateness, logical structure, bias, and then accuracy. So, and the rubric just has those criteria just broken out in kind of 5 columns, with descriptions of each one. So I think this is a good step to learn how to evaluate AI outputs. So if folks are interested, right now you can take this scenario, and so we can maybe just put this into a chatbot here with, actually, you know what? Let's take this first question. And this, do a new chat.
Yeah.
So just ask it to analyze the the loyalty plus. That's what the case study talked about. If you want to read through the case study for a minute, and then I'll share this prompt so you can read through it, or you can put it in yourself. Feel free to copy this and put it in to see if it gives you a different response, or feel free to tweak it. Um, but click share here. And I'll put those in the chat. So feel free to take this and use the rubric and go through the rubric. And um, we only have about 7 minutes left. So maybe just take 5 minutes and see if you can find something in there that maybe it doesn't score a 5 on. So see if you can find a 2, 3, or 4. And when you do, if you could raise your hand, and then we'll just go around and share maybe some omissions or errors or places that it didn't do a stellar job.
No, that's okay. No. Not
I don't see a hand up. We've only got a few minutes left. We're going to end about 10 minutes early just so folks can get to the next session. Um, I'll identify one if you read through the prompt that I had sent. I think bias is one that I would argue it didn't score a 5 on for me. It was heavily swayed toward deontology, and not toward utilitarianism. It was, even though it presented alternative perspectives, it presented it through the filter of one is right and the other one is wrong. And there's some assumptions being made. So if I would look at, the idea of higher, it talks about lock-in fees and reduced flexibility as a bad thing when maybe customers, if they're paying less, don't care about the flexibility, right? There's an assumption that they care and want that. It also assumes that customers aren't going to read the terms, and depending on the customer, they will or won't. So it presents some of these negatives when it's making assumptions about kind of the behavior of the customer that may not be accurate. So I would say that, that borders on bias and that borders on accuracy. So I thought two that could have been either threes or fours, based on my reading. Did anyone have a different a different one that they noticed?
John, I'll just chime in real quick.
Sure.
One thing I was thinking of is, as a professor, the question is actually asking for them for their, own personal perspective of which one they think, is the better perspective for that loyalty program. And so, ChatGPT doesn't give them one way or the other. It gives them, responses on how they could pick one or the other. And so really need to encourage the students to do more reflection on their own so they can use it again as a support mechanism to help them understand the differences between the two. But ultimately, you're still asking them to pick one or the other. And it does, from what at least quickly that I read, it's not encouraging them to pick one or the other. It's kind of sharing, if they were to pick one, here's the right answer, and not really from their own perspective and be able to share why they selected that particular one.
Yeah. Great point. Thank you. And hopefully you're seeing from Marcy's perspective and the perspective that I presented that, these are the kinds of nuances that you have to look for in some of these outputs, because on face value, they seem really good. But using some of this criteria and this rubric, we can kind of dig a little deeper and find some areas where there could be some improvement. And I think, hopefully these activities, these three activities will come in handy in your classes or your process. And as a general note too, the case study here could be created, with a chatbot as well. The links that I gave you are to the National Louis University AI resources. And one of those resources is related to building case studies. Students love case studies, and it creates great opportunity for discussion. So just wanted to highlight that as an option as well. Dig through there, and if you have questions, feel free to reach out to Steve or I. But I want to be mindful of time and come in so that folks can come in on time so that folks can transfer to their next session. So thank you so much for coming and for jumping in, and we appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of the conference. Thanks, Bob, for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you both for doing this. Again, this is a great perspective on using AI in higher education. And great. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this.
Thanks, Bob.
And yeah, thanks, Bob, for hosting this. And, I was looking through the chat. One of the participants asked, "Has this been published yet?" We haven't. And you mentioned the journal. We'd love to hear more about it. So maybe we'll submit it to it, the journal that was sponsoring this
Right.
session.
Yeah. And in fact, Jean Mandernock, who's doing a session, she's also the editor for the journal. So she's on sometime next week. But yeah, good articles.